Chapter 8. A little experiment. I hope it's the fun kind and not the endgame kind. Well, this is a new background. Okay. You know what? If it's the endgame kind of experiment where we're looking at relics, maybe I'll allow it, as long as it doesn't blow up in my face. Endgame's research division was, in a word, amazing. It took up multiple levels, and the individual labs were fantastic. I had some free time, so I stopped by to see if there were any updates on the Relic case. I wasn't expecting the reception I got. The research division was made up, in large part, of non-Espers or lower infantry. The few ranked members were Espers that weren't suitable for assignments or field work beyond information gathering. It meant that many of them didn't leave the lab often outside of going home to sleep, and sometimes not even for that. They were an eccentric bunch that were ecstatic to meet the first F-class queen in history, a title I'd come to accept since it was obvious I wouldn't be rid of it soon. But despite the eccentricities and intense enthusiasm for shaking my hand, I had to admit I felt almost at home. I could get pretty enthusiastic about the right subjects too. This is just a polite way of saying, we all nerded out. It was wonderful. They were scientists, and it showed in everything about them. Fortunately, the fact they were scientists meant there was a simple way to distract them if they got too overwhelming. Ask about something they found more interesting than me. In this case, the relics. Okay, we got new people. Let's go. We should finish cataloging them by the end of the day. We've never had a collection of relics this large to deal with all at once before. I'm relieved they found the rest of the ones from Mystery before they found their way into anyone else's hands. We can't say for sure they got them all, but one hopes. One does. Now if they could only find this mysterious him that has eyes everywhere, and shut his operation down for good. Yeah, that would be ideal. The researcher who had been showing me around was observing me over the top of the display in his hand. You don't think you'll have another psychometric experience while you're here, do you? I can't call them up on command, unfortunately. Fair enough. Even experienced psychometrists have trouble with that, and you're still new at it. Do you remember any more details from the one you had before? Just bits and pieces. Words here and there, nothing that makes sense. I kept hearing the word duplicate, I think. And other stray words, but there's no context, so I can't say what it means. It's frustrating. Maybe. But if it wasn't for you, we might not have even known this cache of relics was bound for New Albion. We wouldn't have them in our possession now, either. No one has every answer. We only contribute what we can. I suppose that's true. You know, some say relics are more like magic than science. I've heard that before, yes. The relics aren't beyond our understanding, though. It's just going to take time to figure them out. Time is the one thing we worry we don't have right now. Hopefully the situation isn't quite as dire yet. Hopefully not. I imagine they'll find more relics once they check other probable points of entry in Cerna. Perhaps even more in Aseri. The fact we have a better idea where to search for them isn't something to dismiss, and that is thanks to you. Looking forward to getting more of them in the lab to study? Of course! Though the sudden surge in them is concerning and puzzling, array and relics are fascinating. Until now, we had only rarely seen pairs with the same configuration. It's part of why they were so difficult to decode. With each one, we had no idea how to activate it or what it might do. Some have been in our custody for years, and we still don't know. But this time around, we have... He trailed off, a puzzled frown crossing his face. Duplicates. Relics with the same configuration, or very similar ones to others we've uncovered. Is that unusual? Yes. It wouldn't be if someone was manufacturing them, but... There's no way someone is making these. What makes you so sure of that? Someone manufactured them in the past. Yes, people who understood this technology. You said yourself that we don't understand it. The metals used to make them don't even seem to naturally occur on the planet. No one has found it in a natural environment, only in the ruins. And even then, we still have no way to process it.
Just because we don't know of a verified source of the ore doesn't mean there isn't one.
If someone found a source of imidrium, trying to make relics capable of melting everyone in the vicinity wouldn't be their top priority. The ore itself would be priceless.
Maybe their goals involve something greater than simple monetary gain.
I can't believe someone else has replicated this technology. I trailed off, realization hitting me like lightning. I gripped my forehead tightly as part of my psychometric experience came back to me all at once, like remembering an elusive dream I only just realized I'd forgotten. Of course! Replicate! They weren't saying duplicate, they were saying replicate.
Replicates of relics.
Yes! One of the people involved in the argument said something about it.
What did he say about them?
I don't know. It's still vague. I just remember snippets.
So you're suggesting that someone is creating replicates of other relics. Replicating has very specific connotations, though.
I don't know. I don't think I can say that with certainty. How would they replicate Arraean technology?
Through other Arraean technology, perhaps.
Basically a relic that replicates other relics?
It's possible. Though just a theory, of course. Based on fractured information from your vision, and I'm certain there are numerous other ways to interpret it. Regardless, this is something you should notify your superiors of. You should update your report from Mystery.
I could be remembering wrong. None of the incidents to date have been the same, have they? If someone was replicating existing relics and distributing them, surely some incidents would be similar because the relics involved would be similar.
Hello! Maybe they have been and we didn't know what to look for.
Magnus? If there was one person I hadn't been expecting to encounter down here, it was him. I don't know, he likes to show up like once every chapter, just to remind me like he's still here.
Just like, hello Molly, just popping in to say hi, don't forget me, and then toodaloo.
I hadn't even seen him outside a few short meetings. I developed this weird impression that he never left his office, though that couldn't be true, of course.
Sorry to interrupt. When I saw you come to the lab, it looked interesting, so I decided to join you.
Was he just sitting around watching me? Then again, there was a chance he sat around watching everyone in the building, I suppose. He had the ability. With his arrival, the rest of the researchers seemed somewhat on edge. Not overtly, but they were sneaking glances his way as he came inside to join me and Olsen. Olsen at least didn't seem to be bothered by it, though.
That's an interesting hypothesis you're putting forth. You think we missed a pattern of similar incidents somehow?
Relic capabilities are not well understood. It's possible the way they're activated and used changes the behavior. This could alter our perception of what a given relic can do. We might miss similarities that would otherwise stand out. For instance, a relic weaponized by one person might be used differently by someone else. A knife in the hands of a murderer or a surgeon differs only in intent.
Olsen frowned and set his display down as he pulled a stool over to an input device.
Surgeons.
Did you think of something?
If what you're saying is true, we should be able to pull up...
Allow me.
Thank you. There was a case in Cerna a few months ago, involving a clinic.
The screen shifted, a new report flickering across it.
This one?
Yes, this is it. We confiscated the relic from an illicit medical clinic in one of Cerna's local lower wards.
I don't remember the details of this case, but from what I'm reading, the relic was being used by the doctor to heal all manner of illnesses. Oh, and to make illegal genetic modifications. How troubling.
The genetic mods weren't harmful. In fact, none of the patients were harmed long term. Even so, we took the doctor into custody for operating without a license.
I see. When questioned, they said it took them almost 4 years to figure out how to use the relic safely on humans.
We're fortunate they were willing and able to demonstrate how to use it. Even so, the exact mechanism by which it works is a mystery. It seems to use array radiation to infiltrate and reprogram the immune system.
And? I don't understand the relevance here.
What do you think would happen if someone used such a device without configuring it for humans?
Isn't it impossible to say?
Is it?
He spun around on the stool to look at us, tapping his fingers on the countertop.
What about the incident here in Brasil? A relic that appeared to be infecting human bodies in some manner, but the infection stopped as soon as the radiation stopped. Dr. Sosky observed most of the patients infected by it had an elevated immune response, which he assumed was a response to the relic infecting them with something. What if the immune system was being directly stimulated by the relic rather than reacting to something?
Perhaps you're correct. I found this.
He flicked a hand at the monitor and 2 images pulled up side by side.
They're similar, aren't they?
Similar? They look identical. Those are the relics from those 2 events?
They are.
So the device from the Brasil incident was a medical device? It hadn't seemed like it at the time, not based on what I saw it doing to those people. How interesting. But I suppose if it wasn't modified for human use. We had no idea what Arrayans were like as a species. Undoubtedly very, very different from us. Still, to think it was a medical device.
I was also thinking of the Anston incident.
That thing from 5 years ago?
In that incident, a relic was uncovered and studied in a small, isolated dome in direct violation of several international treaties. When it activated, it destroyed the entire dome. Or, to say more correctly, it appeared to have completely vaporized the dome, occupants and all. There was nothing left.
Magnus made a soft sound in his throat as the entry about that incident flashed onto the screen.
You're thinking the Asteri incident is similar, aren't you?
It did involve breaking down matter into a barely recognizable substance. Almost like a less powerful or less complete version of the previous incident.
Much smaller scale as well.
For all we know, it was something as simple as utilizing a different setting.
Unfortunately, the Anston relic was never recovered, so we can't compare the 2. I'll have a team go through the known incidents with a fresh perspective and look for patterns we may have missed.
Yeah, interesting. It's like, these things have been seen before, and now they're being used in different ways, but it's actually the same thing. How would someone have replicated the Anston relic if it was never recovered? Surely they'd need to have the original, or schematics of the original. If we assume...
I think it would be unwise for us to make assumptions here, Morgan. There are too many unknowns. All we've uncovered thus far is that the source of all this is in Delphine.
Excuse me one moment. It looks like one of my colleagues needs something from me.
I moved away from Magnus and back towards a glass containment unit in the center of the room, looking at the large relic housed inside it. We're only theorizing someone might be replicating relics because of a word I heard in my vision. And because we may have identified relics with the same function. That's a pretty loose connection.
All we have right now is this loose connection. Any theory is valid at this point.
How could someone make a discovery of that significance over there and manage to stay hidden?
Even I can't see everything that happens there, especially not if they're trying to conceal it. I told you before, how many relics exist there, where they are. All of it is information I have not been able to uncover. I'm not all-powerful. The worrying part is that someone with the ability to replicate Arrayan technology could do so much more than what they've done so far. Which means that if it is what we're dealing with, we haven't deciphered their end goal yet. And that almost definitely means this will get worse before it gets better.
That isn't comforting.
No, it isn't. Not when we have no effective way to counter the power of these relics. They're impervious to our attempts to destroy them, and we don't even know if it can be done safely anyway. It would be nice if someone in our ranks had the ability to manipulate this sort of technology. Hint hint, elbow elbow.
I mean, Morgan has made it stop and blow up in one incident so far. But our only king rank isn't able to.
It's a pity queen ranks don't seem to be able to mimic a king's ability.
Haha, yes, it's quite a pity.
Though you had some sort of experience with the last relic you touched, that vision of circuitry and symbols, and it shorted out right after that.
I didn't short it out, though. I did nothing but pick it up.
Perhaps, but it is still interesting. It would be fascinating if you, as an F-class queen, could do something even I cannot.
He circled the containment unit, moving to the other side of the lab to speak with Olsen and his fellow researchers. I sighed, peering in at the relic in front of me. There's no way. Even if I was somehow mimicking king-ranked abilities, the only king we had couldn't interact with or decipher the relic, so why would I be able to? I shut my eyes, replaying that moment in the streets of Bracehill. It wasn't like I'd done anything special. I only picked the relic up and looked at it. Girl, I swear, if you pick up a relic in here... There was no actual evidence I had anything to do with what had happened next. Though, if I could do something like that, would it help with the situation? It wasn't like the relics could tell me where they were from or who made them. Realistically, the most valuable part of being able to decode them would be knowing how to activate and deactivate them. But knowing the intended purpose and how they were supposed to function? If someone learns to decode the relics, doesn't that mean they potentially have a method for translating the Arraean language? Now that was a topic of interest to me. Think of how many doors that would open to understanding the history of this world. It would be a veritable Pandora's box when it came to the technology itself, though. Someone was already tinkering with these things, and people were getting hurt. Humans never know when to leave things alone, do they? Living on a planet with such a complex history really was a problem sometimes. Fascinating, but problematic. I looked up to catch Magnus watching me and smiled, feeling a little awkward now that I was alone and everyone else busy. Maybe I should head up. I needed to update my reports with the information I remembered, and... There was a flicker of light on the darkened relic in front of me. I glanced up at it with surprise, eyes going wide. The pinprick of cyan light at the top of the relic began to spread through the circuitry. My thoughts slowed, trailed to a stop, and everything shifted. In a split second, it felt like I was watching myself from far away. Oh no. The words were drawn out in my mind, loitering at the edge of consciousness too long for me to react to what was happening. There was a flash. The symbols flooded through my vision, strange and unintelligible. They blotted out the lab until they were all I could see. The hum of the relic filled my mind. A hum, and then a high-pitched whine like a scream. I knew it would explode before I heard Olsen return to my side, frantically saying my name. But I couldn't move. I was aware of what was going on around me, but I was stuck in that strange world of alien symbols, unable to tear my eyes away. With great effort, I shouted for everyone to get out. The words came out a sluggish whisper, as if my tongue had fastened itself to the roof of my mouth. The relic was going to discharge. In my mind's eye, I could see the energy coiling inside it, preparing to release like a snake about to strike. For one terrifying moment, I thought we would die. Instinct took over. I pushed Olsen behind me and condensed my psi into a barrier wrapped around the device in a thick layer. There was a sharp pain at the back of my skull when I raised another shield around the two of us. And... whoa. A wash of bright light hit my eyes, breaking the spell. I flinched away, covering my face as the relic exploded. There was a loud pop that left my ears ringing, shattering glass. Pain in both my mind and arm as the shields cracked and shattered. It was over in seconds, and we were all alive. What followed was a jumble of faces, shouts, smoke, alarms. The lab was damaged, but in one piece.
Morgan, are you all right?
I'm fine. I had a feeling my voice was too loud over the ringing in my ears. I could hear Magnus as well as Olsen help me away from the center of the room.
Get the smoke cleared out of here. Scan the area and get full readings on the radiation. Check for anything anomalous.
My eyes met his. Something strange passed over his face. Almost like triumph? It was gone before I fully registered it. Magnus, stop being a sussy baka.
Morgan!
Sorry, I'm fine. I'm okay. I stumbled after him towards the door.
What happened?
I'm not sure. The relic activated and I got pulled in again. It felt different than what happened on the street. A little. I don't know. At any rate, I knew it would explode. It's interesting that we're in a... I don't know if it's the same... Probably not the same hallway, but a similar hallway to, when we went back in time to see Rory and Brennan. Maybe all lab hallways just look the same. I glanced at my arm. I thought it was just glass that had injured it, but it was red, blistered, and peppered with cuts. Looks like my shields still need work. On the bright side, no one got melted.
No, there is time for that later. We need to get you to the infirmary to have that treated.
I'll take her there myself.
Magnus gave me another look before he turned away again, taking charge in a way that left me a little surprised.
I want a full report on the test being done on that relic, and why it activated. This could have been a serious incident. We don't want a repeat.
Olsen shuffled me away, and we left the chaos of the lab behind for the chaos of the medical ward instead. Hi, please don't yell at me. It's not my fault. I didn't die, at least.
You are fortunate the burn isn't worse than it is. A mid-partial thickness burn will still take hours to heal, even with my intervention and your bio-enhancements. You also received 17 lacerations from the exploded glass along the left antebrachium. Glass shards had to be removed from 6 of them. You required biosutures in 4 of them.
I am aware of that. It's my arm that was injured, you know. I was present for the treatments.
You were fortunate your hastily constructed shield blocked as much as it did.
Yes. Given what we know of relics, I'm lucky to be alive.
Quite. You were fortunate the relic self-destructed rather than discharged, and that you were capable of at least a moderately strengthened shield.
I'll have to thank Ari for the training. The look he leveled at me was nothing short of a glare before he returned to typing on his display.
All the relics should be locked down before something terrible happens with them. No one here is capable of dealing with them.
Did they figure out why that one activated in the first place?
Did you not do it?
No! I didn't start experiencing whatever that was until after it already activated. I don't know that...
I said get out of the way! It would appear your god have learned you are injured.
I'm surprised it took him this long to come down and start shouting at people. I'm alive! I'm fine! It wasn't my fault, probably. The door slid open and Caleb was standing there looking predictably angry.
If you intend to do nothing but shout at others, I will personally escort you out of my medical ward, Caleb. I'm not shouting!
You kind of are, though.
What did you think you were doing down there, Leone?
Here we go. Am I not allowed down in the research lab?
You sure as hell aren't now.
Whether that meant they'd ban me or he was being dramatic, I couldn't say. I'm gonna lean towards dramatic. I didn't do anything. You can ask everyone there.
Clearly you did something, Morgan. Another one of those things blew up while you just happened to be nearby. And how the hell do you just stand there when one of those things is about to go off? What were you thinking? Are you trying to get killed?
It wasn't as if I was being reckless. Everything happened very fast.
I saw the recording. You stood there while people tried to pull you away.
Yes, I know. I was there. He blew a long stream of air from his lips, looking for all the world as if he'd like to throttle me. And I almost laughed. Typical Caleb.
Are you finished telling off my patient?
It's alright, Dr. Sasaki. I know he's only worried about me.
Oh, you've even realized his anger is a dysfunctional attempt to avoid addressing his anxiety.
I would think that would be blatantly obvious. I don't know that I came to that exact conclusion.
I've told him many times if he continues to refuse to deal with his anxiety directly, it'll culminate in more outbursts. Anger makes him feel more in control of situations over which he cannot exert real control.
The eye roll.
Unprocessed anger can lead to a myriad of other medical issues. He truly is a most problematic patient. I'm not your patient, and I'm not here to get a diagnosis from you. No, though you clearly need one. But if you're here to express overly loud concern for your queen, she will recover. Her injuries are not severe, though I intend to keep her a while longer for observation. What do you think you'll be observing? Any residual effects from what happened with the Relic, of course. Just in case. Others were merely exposed to array radiation. She, however, had another odd experience and is still showing heightened activity in her phoric system. I hate to break it to you, but they're already getting ready to call a meeting of the guard. Then it will have to go on without the Queen-ranked member there, as she will not be leaving the infirmary for several hours. Good luck with that. When have I ever needed something like luck to enforce my rules on my patients?
I was like, you may be able to enforce those rules, but there's nothing to say that the meeting can't be held in the infirmary, so I'm kind of expecting that to happen. With everyone crowded in my With everyone crowded in my infirmary room, I was reminded of my first days in this organization. At that time, I had been so scared and lost. It was strange that it felt normal this time around.
Well, here we are again. I hate to barge in like this, but I wanted to sit down and talk about what happened.
I'm glad, because I had some things I wanted to talk about too. Because the more I thought about what happened, the more it seemed a little strange, convenient.
I'd love to know how you did it. This is the second time you got one to deactivate just from being close to it.
I wish I could tell you. Like last time, I didn't do anything in particular. Caleb was leaning near the door and I gave him a pointed look when I said that. He lifted an eyebrow in response. Typical.
Then what exactly happened? We have yet to hear your perspective on the situation.
When it started to light up, I just looked into it and had a similar experience to last time. There were lights, symbols, and then it exploded. I don't know that I actively caused it to self-destruct at the last minute. I could tell it was about to discharge, and it was over.
Perhaps it's reacting to your psi by self-destructing. Some array in tech reacts to psi. Either way, it's fascinating. I can't even begin to interpret what I see when I look into relics. There's nothing recognizable. Not that I'm truly seeing anything. It's just the brain trying to interpret the stimulation by accessing the visual and auditory cortex. According to Dr. Sasky, anyway. But what I usually get when I look into them is a scream inside my head and an influx of alien sounds. It's painful to try to go too deep inside them.
Usually, but not always.
On rare occasions, my attempts to interface with them have been semi-successful. On a very shallow level, given time, I can occasionally elicit a response of some kind.
Is that what happened in the lab today?
What are you suggesting?
Did you activate that relic in the lab to force me to interact with one of them again?
Did he do what?
Now, Morgan. Do you think I'd do something dangerous like that?
I can't say I think you wouldn't.
That hurts a little.
And you didn't answer the question, Magnus.
Shouldn't you know the answer already?
Magnus, you...
The room was suddenly tense. I wasn't sure if I should continue, but I had a feeling. I think the answer is yes. For one thing, you admitted you went to the lab because you knew I was there.
That's hardly evidence my goal was to test your ability to interact with the relics.
We were discussing that possibility minutes before the relic activated and destroyed the lab. You also seemed intrigued by the idea I might be able to interface with them.
Well, doesn't matter. It seems like you successfully shut it off, regardless of how it activated.
Magnus, sheesh, that curiosity will kill the cat. He just... Without Morgan curtailing him, he has, like, no sense of humanity left in there. So all it is just one big experiment, and he's like, I'm curious, if I poke this button, what will it do? Magnus, I love you, but you've got to curb your enthusiasm. Vanessa cursed under her breath, and Mara had to set a hand on her arm to keep her seated on the foot of the bed.
Are you serious, Magnus?
I mean, he does kind of deserve it. He was across the room, gripping Magnus by the front of his shirt in seconds.
Caleb, you're a little close.
I'm asking you what you did, Magnus!
Why are you treating me like I confess to anything?
I believe there's only one reason you would avoid answering Morgan's question.
I would have expected Ari to stop Caleb, or for any of them to stop him. They're all frustrated, girl. They all want to, like, just smack him up the head. None of them did.
I asked you what you did.
Nothing much. Just set a little chain reaction in place to test the outcome.
Test? Are you kidding me? Morgan got hurt because of your little test.
Not badly, and I was confident she could handle the situation based on her prior experience. I had someone standing by to get her out if needed.
Sheesh, man, he planned that.
The hell does that even mean? That you planned the whole damn thing?
Isn't it better to plan it out than improvise?
I thought Magnus may have seen it coming, but he didn't dodge the fist. Or maybe he didn't have time to. He fell back against the counter, gripping it to keep from continuing to the floor. When he stood again, he was rubbing the side of his mouth. Everyone was on their feet in seconds, including me. Ari was already at Caleb's side, pulling him back. Something about the way Magnus's expression didn't even change sent a chill down my spine. Oh, they even... That's a neat detail. There's even a little cut there.
I understand your frustration, but the situation we're in necessitates risk-taking from us all. The relic in the containment unit was one we confiscated several months ago. We are aware how it works, and the danger was minimal even if it discharged. Might I remind you, I was in the lab too. It wasn't as if I intended to sacrifice her.
I thought Caleb was going to throw another punch, but Ari held him back. I watched the scene with wide eyes. The door opened, and, unsurprisingly, you was there. I doubt it took long to figure out what happened.
Save it. I'll show myself out.
Caleb pushed past him and disappeared into the hall. You watched him go.
Should I remove the rest of you as well and end your little meeting here?
Not even going to ask if I'm okay. That's cold even for you.
From what I heard, I should be more concerned for your mental state than your face, Magnus Ulrich. If you want treatment, come to my office when you're through.
He's rude as always.
We should not be experimenting with actual people, Magnus. What you did was dangerous.
Also, if you wanted to do an experiment like that, you could have done it in a much safer way and asked permission. Yes, you're like, this is faster, and I'm feeling chaotic, but like, man, you just don't even think to ask even. I get it when like, you get no choice in any situations, and now you're just kind of like projecting that onto others, but my dude. Everyone, just stop, please. Nothing will be solved by arguing. What's done is done.
Are you saying you're fine with what Magnus...
No, I'm not saying that. And if he wants to risk someone's safety going forward, it should be his own, not mine or anyone else's. I'm just saying, if, by some chance, our theory is correct and someone is somehow producing relics, it's a serious problem. Even if they just found a large stockpile somewhere that happens to have some duplicates of previously discovered relics in it. It's a serious problem. If I can somehow cause a reaction in them...
Being able to cause a reaction isn't the same as being able to control them, Morgan. And there's no safe way for you to hone the skill to get it to that point.
Yeah, but... You know, give her the option. If she wants to take that risk, that's her decision to make. But don't take it from her on either side of the equation.
Even so, she's disrupted and destroyed 2 of them.
If I can get some sort of reaction from them that shuts them down, you should be able to as well, Magnus. After all, you can activate them. It would be nice if you weren't putting everything else on my shoulders, right? And next time you want to experiment, I expect you to tell me first. Yep.
I'll do my best to remember that.
You will write several sticky notes and tape them to your glasses, sir. Write yourself a note if you have to.
I'll do that.
The meeting was completely derailed after that. The most important part of what Magnus wanted to discuss was, I suppose, already discussed. It wasn't until later I learned that he had activated the lab scanners long before the relic had come online. They recorded everything, down to my psi and the relic's precise energy output. Well, he's thorough, if nothing else. It would take some time to analyze the data and compare it to my personal experience. I didn't care about any of that. The truth was that I wanted to get to my room and rest. And I didn't want to be around Magnus for a while. I think that is totally fair. Or anyone else. I was relieved when you released me, but frustrated when Caleb, who had been outside the whole time, chose to walk me back. You didn't have to come with me. He hadn't said much the entire walk. Not that I expected him to after that thing with Magnus. I didn't know if he'd get in trouble for that. I hoped not. No, he'll be fine.
Well, how's your arm?
It's fine. It's really not that big a deal.
It is a big deal! If you hadn't had a few sparse lessons with Ari, you would have died. A fact that seems lost on both you and Magnus.
It's not lost on me at all. This is why I had lessons.
This is not why you had lessons, Morgan!
Are you going to complain about this again because you isn't here to defend me?
Oh, he's you now.
Yes, we're very good friends. Don't be jealous. He suggested I call him that? Yes. I can't believe he's actually jealous about her calling Sasuke by his first name.
Do you have any idea how dangerous it was what you did in that lab? Setting aside the crap Magnus pulled, why did you just stand there? Why didn't you get the hell out of there when that thing was about to discharge?
So we really are going to do this again. I was barely aware of my surroundings at that point.
And when you realized what was happening, you put your body between the relic and someone else and tried to shield the lab instead of running away.
I didn't think there was time for us to get out, and we didn't know what the relic would do, what its range was, or if walls would even block the effects. I did what I felt was the best thing to do at the time.
It was reckless. The exact sort of reckless crap Magnus was counting on you to do. You played right into his hands.
What does that even mean? And for the record, this entire job is reckless. This was barely even a blip on the danger meter.
This is why I said you weren't ready!
Ready for what? To go down to a lab? To exist, perhaps? I wasn't exactly on an assignment. I'll never be ready for this kind of thing. I can only take each situation as it comes to me and make what seems like the best choice as it happens.
Do you even know how important you are to this organization? How important you are to...
You? Yes. Communicate this. Instead of being like, I'm putting you in a bubble forever. Just say, I was worried about you. I am so scared you're gonna get hurt. I'm so glad you're safe, though. Please stop making me scared. Just say you're scared, man. Communicate. Stop yelling. He stopped short, his jaw working.
Just... Get to your place and get some rest.
He turned on his heel and started away. Great, and he is just leaving like that. This turned out to be a lousy day. So I made up for it by changing into training attire and going to hit something. Because between Magnus and Caleb, I really needed to hit something. It was also the opposite of what Caleb told me to do, so that was a bonus. Stupid! Jerk! I knew he was worried. I knew I wasn't just a queen rank to him. I knew it, but that didn't change how angry I was. The council was throwing me headlong into assignments whether I was ready or not. Magnus was tricking me into stupid situations to test my skills. And then I had to deal with Caleb being pissed off about it. I was so tired of it. All of it. Tired of all of them. I slammed my fist into the punching bag again, ignoring the pain that shot up my arm, then caught it as it swayed under the force of the strike. What are you doing here, Caleb?
Does you know you're defying his orders to rest?
Are you going to pick another fight with me?
No. No. That isn't why I'm here.
Good. I continued to ignore him and took up my stance again, punching the bag as hard as I could. You would be furious with me, but I couldn't help it that I had some irritation to get out. The regeneration was close to complete anyway. Caleb's soft footsteps came to me, padding quietly over the mat. Before I could throw another punch, he caught my hand from behind, tucking my body against his as he held me in place.
You should be resting and letting that arm heal.
I struggled to get away, but he held me firmly. How did you even find me?
I may be a rook, and my clairvoyance may suck, but it's not like it's non-existent. You weren't in your flat, so I went looking.
I don't need you checking in on me. And let go of me! I jerked my elbow back, but he must have sensed it coming. He stepped away and I made contact with air.
I wasn't checking in on you. I was going to apologize.
I looked over my shoulder at him, wiping my forehead with the back of my hand.
For yelling at you.
I'm tired of you snapping at me because you feel guilty about my being here. I don't care if that's how you deal with things.
It's not just guilt.
Then what is it?
What do you think it is?
I don't know!
I worry because you can't take care of yourself the way the rest of us can.
I'm the strongest one here!
In theory.
Should I prove to you that it's in practice as well?
You think you can?
Yep, it's time to go. It's time to go. Let's go. I spun around, throwing a punch I knew had no chance of landing. Caleb blocked it effortlessly, and the next. He had an infuriating look on his face, as if he'd been planning an impromptu sparring match all along. He backed away from me towards the center of the room, blocking every single blow, making me angrier and angrier each time. And he didn't bother to fight back, which made it worse. Even if I threw him somehow, he'd be on his feet again right away. But he'd taught me how to throw someone, so I launched myself at him, one of my legs wrapping around his. He saw it coming and let himself fall. I didn't know if I was angrier he was here, or angrier he was letting me win. He hit the mat, rolling back and preparing to get right back to his feet. I followed him down and pinned him in place, knowing full well he could toss me off if I didn't enhance my strength more. But to be honest, I just wanted to prove a point, not exhaust myself for no reason. When I held him in place, he lay there looking up at me, amused and curious.
Finished.
Depends if I got my point across.
What point is that, Morgan?
That I don't need you to protect me and have a tantrum every time you feel you didn't do it well enough. The facade cracked and his expression faltered.
You do...
I don't need you treating me like I'm inferior. Do you understand that's how you make me feel? That I'm burdened by the stupid guilt of not being good enough even though I barely got here? And on top of that, I have to deal with your stupid temper and attitude because you always act like a jerk when you're worried.
I didn't intend for you to feel guilty.
Just like I don't mean to worry you. Caleb reached up, startling me when he moved a lock of hair out of my face and behind my ear. My mouth suddenly went dry.
I don't know how to deal with you.
What's that mean?
You aren't like the rest of us. You're not some child soldier raised in this place. You're inexperienced, and you hate that you have to be here. You miss your life, but you're determined to make this work. It's frustrating.
He looked at me seriously, his hand sliding to my cheek.
You frustrate me. And you scare me. If the rest of us can get hurt with all our years of training, what do you think can happen to you? I've seen it happen, Morgan. I don't want to see it again.
Nothing will happen to me.
You can't promise that.
Then neither can you. No matter how much you try to protect me.
I can try. I don't want to.
His jaw tightened, and I felt his hand at the back of my head pulling me down to him. I had a split second to realize what was happening before our lips met. Finally, these silly nerds. Finally, they kissed! A gasp escaped, mingling with his breath. In an instant, all thoughts fled. It wasn't that I was surprised. I mean, I was. In that moment. Woo! How did I end up on my back? Wait a minute. I thought I was doing the pinning. Hang on. Great kiss, though. He kept one arm around my waist and rolled me over. I see. Pinning me to the mat with his body. I let out a soft, muffled gasp. The kiss itself didn't surprise me that much. It wasn't as if I didn't realize there was growing tension. I was just surprised he acted on it. And surprised at myself for not pushing away and not telling him it was a bad idea. Because I was certain it was a bad idea to kiss him. At least like this, when we were both frustrated and anxious. And were tangled on the floor of the training room. But that still didn't stop me. Instead, I let the weight of his body rest against mine, and the stiffness eased out of me. I shut my eyes against everything, and in that darkness just gave myself over to the feeling of him running his fingers through my hair and down my side. His teeth caught my lower lip, eliciting a sharp gasp. He rolled his hips against mine in a gesture I thought was unconscious from the way the sensation caused us both to gasp. I think that was when we both realized where we were and what we were doing. Well. Caleb jerked back, staring down at me with an expression I couldn't begin to decipher. He cursed under his breath, leaning to press his forehead against mine.
You have really done a number on my head, I hope you know that.
I don't...
No, it's not your fault. It's mine.
He sat up, rubbing his eyes.
I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
Stop apologizing to me.
All right.
He stood and offered me his hand. I wasn't sure I wanted to take it, but I did.
I need to go clear my head. We'll talk later. I'm sorry.
If I wanted to say anything else, I didn't have a chance. He left me staring after him and wondering what this meant. Damn it. Could this day get any weirder? Any more frustrating? My fingertips wandered to my lips and I let out a strangled sigh. I would never be able to sleep now. Never.